What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Creative James Media YouTube channel. I'm Matt. I'm the social media manager here at CJM, and today we have another wonderful interview for you with one of our upcoming authors, Madison Cowsert. And we're going to be talking about her thriller, Moms Who Whine, which we picked up for summer of 2027, some hobbies, and some overall just some writing and whatever shenanigans we can get into. But before we begin, Madison, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Matt. I'm Madison Cowsert. I've loved writing for as long as I can really remember. I remember being in elementary school when the teacher would say, okay, everyone, we're going to do a little writing short story essay thing. And all the other kids would groan and pull out their pencils. And the teacher would look at me and I'd be already halfway down, jotting my next story. And all the other kids would be like, oh, wow, that girl's a suck up. But no, realistically, I've been writing, I'm probably first grade is when I started. And when I got into sixth grade, I remember reading Goosebumps for the first time and picking up an R.L. Stine book and being like, oh my gosh, this book is incredible. This is so different than the normal day fairy tales that you read. And rushing home to my mom and being like, Mom, can we buy the next book? Can we buy the next book? And I think that's just kind of where it's all developed for me. And now as I've gotten older, I've kind of stepped away from Goosebumps, but I'm reading Frida McFadden, Lucy Foley, a lot of my favorite authors out there that are also thriller writers that I look up to. And it's just funny how it comes back in full circle.
Yeah, I know how that goes because mine was Goosebumps and then Animorphs and then the Hardy Boys and then it was straight into Stephen King.
Yeah, I loved Nancy Drew. Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew was a lot better.
It wasn't for everybody. That was the thing though. At least growing up when I did, that was Hardy Boys was more of the boys' book, Nancy Drew's more of the girls' book, and it wasn't until I became in my 20s that it really started to cross over and people were equally reading both. So, I mean,
yeah. Definitely. Well, and then Nancy Drew came out with video games and everything else. And it was just the whole universe exploded.
Yeah. I think there was a TV show too, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
Super long ago. I think I remember watching some of it, but yeah, that was definitely got more popular as it, I don't know, say aged maybe.
Right.
But yeah. Tell us a bit about your thriller that we signed, which is called Moms Who Whine.
Well, it's kind of in the title. So it's basically about 5 women who get together every Thursday. They live in this perfect cul-de-sac that looks amazing from the outside point of view. The lawns are trimmed and everyone waves. It's just that cookie cutter neighborhood that you see, driving through upscale New York or Washington, where I'm living currently. But what people don't know is what happens behind closed doors. Everybody has their own secrets, betrayals, friendship lies, all of that happens within Moms Who Whine until, one of those secrets gets out and then a mom gets mad and then eventually that mom disappears.
Quite the conundrum. Sounds like, it may be far from it, but when you were kind of describing the neighborhood, the first thing that made me chuckle and kind of popped in my head was HOA.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some HOA stuff in there for sure. When I started writing it, I legitimately got my neighborhood feel off of Desperate Housewives Wisteria Lane. If you've ever watched it or if you've ever seen something kind of like it, that's where I've picked up on my book, just because it looks good. It looks perfect, but not so much.
It's about what's hiding on the inside that you can't see.
Exactly.
Where did the inspiration for Moms Who Whine come from?
So it's a little bit of a mixture. My mother-in-law, who just passed in April, she used to meet with her girlfriends, and once a month, I would say once a month on a Thursday, they would meet up at a lunch spot, wherever they picked, and they would just talk for hours. She would get home and then call me and be like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what Nancy said about her husband. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, here we go. This is going to be a 2-hour conversation. But it was just like lots of fun banter conversations that I was like, you know what? This kind of reminds me of Desperate Housewives, but older. And then I was like, I wonder if there's a book like this. And I went looking for a book that was similar because I was like, I would love to read a story about women that talk about women, and I couldn't find one. And so I sat down, and my husband was like, why don't you try writing one? And I was like, no, I can't do it. There's no way. And then one night I literally grabbed a pencil and I was like, I'm just going to try. And then before you knew it, I was halfway finished with the first draft, and it just kept going. Like it just rolled.
See, that's the thing too. I don't know if you've heard the saying, but it's not we're not really writing books for a specific audience. We're writing books that we want to read.
Exactly.
And you
Yeah.
couldn't find that, so you wrote it.
Yep. And I may have added my own flair here and there, but no, it's very fun.
I mean, you kind of have to, though, because if you don't like add your own, because I know I did this in my book too. Like my main character has a lot of my personality traits and a lot of my background. It's like if you don't, it can kind of come off as impersonal because there's nothing
Right.
really, you're like, it may come off as too fictional, basically, because you're like, it's
Right.
so cookie cutter. But if you're like, I know this personality trait really well and I can relay it and intertwine it in a way that people can understand it, you're golden.
Yeah, some of my characters are actually based off of like other people's personalities that I know. And the area that I wrote my book about is Gig Harbor, which is in Washington, and it's a gorgeous town that I wish I had all the money to live in. But it's just, to me, it was so much easier going and visiting that place and sitting down and being like, okay, look around you. What do you see? What are people doing? What are people talking about? Visiting wineries and just, not eavesdropping per se, but just, picking up on cues on how people act around
Right.
people, and then they go home and then they act a completely different way.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's how I find a lot of books are the most authentic because you're writing about something that you see. Because in my book, Small Town Chaos, I did the same thing. Like it is modeled after my hometown, really, really tiny town in the Midwest. And so when I'm describing scenes in the beginning, it's what I saw going to school. It's what I saw going to work. And so that's one thing that I think helps make it more believable is you're
Right.
immersing yourself in a place that's either exactly after it or so similar that you can like live through the book, basically.
Yeah.
Um, what's what would you say makes thrillers so enjoyable for you to write?
So that's a good question. I know what draws me into thrillers, not necessarily what makes it so enjoyable, because sometimes the plot twist is the hardest part of a thriller. Like, I can come up with a plot all day long, but then I sit down and I'm like, okay, so what can happen that's going to shock everyone out of the water? Like, that takes some time. Like,
Right.
that's usually the biggest part of writing a thriller, but it's the best part of a thriller. I love reading books that, like, you think it's one thing and then you get like 270 pages in and it's completely different. So for me, I would say those plot twists are everything. If you don't have a good plot twist, you need to rework your story, because that's what draws readers like me in.
See, that's one thing, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but that's one thing that I love about Frida McFadden. All of her books are so well done when it comes to the plot, and half the time there's one or two. So
I
there's
know.
she like jukes you out. There's like a fake one, and then you get the actual one like a couple chapters later, and you're like, huh, I thought that one was it.
Right? I mean, the last one I just read, Dear Debbie, like I
Hmm.
had no idea where it was going. I mean, it threw me through so many loopholes. By the time I was done, I was like, I have major whiplash. Like, I need to sit down and collect my own thoughts, because I was just like, how did she do that? Like, she must have had a whiteboard and just connected all these dots, because I was just like, I was mind blown. And that's what I inspire to be one day. I
Right.
want somebody to be like, wow, that took some effort, because it's not easy. It's
Right.
definitely not easy.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that too is she's been doing it for so long
Mm-hmm.
that she's just like, okay, I know what works, what doesn't work, and there's certain things that only work in certain situations. So she's kind of learned how to piece things together. And so I think that's kind of, comes with a lot of time and
Yeah,
a lot
for
of writing.
sure. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but it's you'll get it as long as you just keep at it and you keep trying different avenues. You'll
Right.
find your own voice that can kind of give that twist to all of your books, I think. Um, this is one that I didn't know how you would answer it because it's one that I was like, people always ask me, and I'm kind of like, I really don't know. If you decided to explore a different genre and write it, not thrillers, like you had to say thrillers wasn't even on the table, which one would you pick and what appeals to you about it?
So that's hard because thrillers are obviously my like safe place. I can
Right.
write a thriller any day of the week.
That's
But
kind of the point.
if I had to choose, I would probably say horror, and it kind of lives in that same category. But and I'm not talking like slasher horror or scream because I'm not one for blood and guts, but I wouldn't be, too opposed to writing something like Goosebumps, like middle grade
Right.
ish, and just exploring that because you don't have to have all the blood and the guts and the gross to write that. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean,
Right.
I love Stephen King, love him. I personally could not stomach writing some of the things that he's written, but I love it. I mean, I love reading it and I love watching all of his movies that have been, adapted. But for me, I would probably say probably middle grade horror just because I still like that there's still secrets and there's still things that you don't know and don't see coming. I love that way too much to give that up.
Right. I think Goosebumps too is one of those series that it's not it's like a mixture of like I want to call them baby jump scares
Yeah, yeah.
mixed with like a thriller plot on top
Right.
of
And
it.
some of it's comedy. Like
Hmm.
some of the stuff is just so far fetched that you're like,
Right.
I don't know about that, but it's so good and it's so entertaining. And like I said, it really sparked my interest in writing thrillers. And I mean, it was basically the open gate for me. And yeah, I would love to be able to do something like that too.
Well, who knows? One day there
Yeah.
might be one coming down the pipeline. There,
Yeah. You never know with me, man.
never say never, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I know this is your first book, but you've been writing for quite a long time.
Mhm.
What would you say? And you can share more than one if you want. But what is the best piece or pieces of writing advice that you've received on your journey so far? It can be any point in your life, really. Something that's stuck with you that you're like, that's a good point.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, I mean, that come to mind when you just say that question. One of them being don't give up. I mean, that's just plain and simple, but like there were so many times writing my first draft where I would sit and get like a chapter done or a couple thousand words done and I'd read it and I'd be like, is this good? Like, is this even gonna spark anyone's interest? And I would almost crumble up the paper and then, I'd call my mom and be like, hey, can I read this really to you? Like, can you just tell me if this is good enough for you? And she'd listen and she'd be like, Madison, that's great. Like, don't stop, like this is just the beginning. Like your first draft isn't meant to be perfect by any means. I mean, I've written Moms Who Whine, I think 8 times before CJM found me. And I can honestly say each time it has gotten so much better. And, the edits and the revisions and just reworking some of the structure to the book. Like, so I would say to not give up. And then another piece is finish the book. Finish it. Like, you cannot have anything without finishing it. So, you can have 40,000 words and almost be at that 70 mark and then just give up. It's nothing. You didn't finish. You didn't
Right.
complete it. So it's just really finding that drive and just telling yourself, like, I'm going to commit myself to this, whether that's 2,000 words a day or 5,000 a week or just, 2,000 a month. Just come back to it. Finish the book because I
Right.
promise you it's so rewarding in the end. I mean, it's such a great feeling to hold your book and just be like, wow, I did this. Even if nobody reads it, that's okay. You finished
Exactly.
it. That's the start.
Exactly. Yeah. So, because I did that like, funny enough, that's what happened with mine. I wrote like a paragraph and then it literally sat in Google Docs for like 5 years. And I was cleaning up my drive and I was like, what is this? And I read it and I was like, I think Twitter at that time I put out there, I was like, well, if I was to write this, would anybody read this kind of thing? And somebody had told me, they said, hey, they're like, if you have to ask if somebody's going to read it, you're not a real author. And then I was like, watch me.
Yeah,
And I finished
no,
it.
boom. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna type this thing up.
Exactly. And the other thing is too, is like, two things that I always tell people to remember is that one, just because that manuscript is not working for you right now, don't get rid of it. Set it to the side and work on something else, whether that be a free writing project, a journaling project, whatever. But don't throw that away, because there's going to come a day where you're going to be looking for, for example, you finished Moms Who Whine. You're going to be like, I need another project. And you're going to open
Right.
that up and you're going to be like, I have an idea about that. Well, now you have a place to start, maybe
Yeah.
20,000 words, it maybe 10,000, maybe even 40. And you're like, I can finish this now.
Right.
You know,
100%. I mean, I have so many books that, like, as I was writing Moms Who Whine, that I jotted down in a notebook. I have a notebook for each book that I've written. And some of them are literally 8,000 words. But I'm like, hey, that's the beginning. That is
exactly.
something. I mean, I always look at it like the first draft, if I could do 1,000 words each chapter and I get to 33 chapters, when I go back into that second draft, I'm going to be adding probably a lot, because let's be realistic, 1,000 words, like, that's easy to plug and play. I mean, I've been told by lots of different people, like, oh, just shelve it, just start something new. And I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't listen to that, because I wouldn't be here talking to
Right.
you and expressing my love for Moms Who Whine. Like, yeah, just don't give up on yourself.
And that's the thing too. It's like, that 8,000 words, for example, that you would have in that notebook, those, you might not use those exact 8,000 words, because you might be like, no, I got to rework this 5,000. But you have a launching point and you have a
Right.
place to start. So,
Exactly.
and I'll say too, to that effect, is shelving is not a bad thing. People kind of look down on that. They're like, oh, you shelved that book. Listen, there's a time and a place for every manuscript. And if I wouldn't have shelved rewriting my first book, I would not be writing the series that I'm writing right now.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't have
I
had
can
the
see that.
idea and taken it to my partner and said, hey, you want to co-write this with me?
Right.
Because I'd still be sitting there spinning my wheels on the rewrites for that other book. So shelving doesn't necessarily mean that you're quitting or that you're giving up on it. It's just you have the inspiration and the drive to start something else and bring a new project to life, and then you just come back to it. I know people who work on 3 different books at once, which to me is insane.
That's so crazy. I don't know if I can do that.
Right? But people do it. That's
Oh
how
yeah,
they
100%.
that's how they keep their creativity fresh. They bounce from book to book, and when they have an idea, they go back to that other book. So, shelving's not necessarily a bad thing. Just don't forget about it.
Exactly. Come back.
Yep.
Come back to that shelf.
Was there a particular character in Moms Who Whine that was more challenging for you to write than the others, do you think?
Without giving too much away,
Right.
I would say I kind of have 3 POVs throughout this book, and it's Jules, Aaron, and another woman. And I would probably say Aaron was my hardest to write, just because of the emotional depth in that character, as far as like everything she faces and everything she learns about her neighbors. I mean, that woman, she took on a lot of information and didn't know what to do with it, and it's just like, she was probably my hardest, I would say. I mean, all of them were so much fun to write, because all of them have unique voices and the way they react to each other and what they do for jobs and who's married to who and who's in what social circle. So like, all of them were so much fun, but she was probably my hardest, just because I felt like with her, she did have like a lot of emotional weight to her
Right.
character.
I mean, sometimes, honestly, sometimes those make the best characters, though. when
Hmm.
people can see that they have so much baggage, yet they're still accomplishing all these things within the book and
Right.
still kind of keeping themselves relevant, it sometimes makes for a better character.
I guess you'll see.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait. We'll
Exactly.
have to sign up for an art copy and get an early jump on it. When you are writing, do you find for you personally that the character building or the world building is more enjoyable, and kind of what pulls you more towards one aspect or the other?
I would say character building for me. World building is great. And a lot of people think, like, oh, fantasy is the only people that do world building. That's not true,
No.
because my story is around a cul-de-sac that's in a very upscale neighborhood. And I kind of made a lot of it up based off of a neighborhood I know. But like the town, the city, like what goes on, the music that you hear, and all that, like that was enjoyable. However, like my characters are like the main source of my book. And I just had so much fun. Like I said, I watched a lot of TV in between writing this book, and called my mother-in-law, called my mom, and just like listened to them talk about their friends so I could put little bits of pieces into my characters and just shape them as a whole.
Right.
Um, However, in other books that I've written, the world building is more important because, seeing the scene, and like one of my books that I have in my mind for later, it's based off of a place in Hawaii, and that's beautiful, and you really want to capture that. So I think it just depends on what kind of book you're writing at the time.
Right. And that makes complete sense. I just find that some people, when I ask them that, they're like, they have a specific answer. They're like, no, I hate world building. I do it because I have to, or vice versa with the characters, because they have their world is more important, and being able to tell you what that character sees and things like that, compared to telling you all about the character's flaws or what they
Yeah.
like to do. They're like, no, I would rather paint you this beautiful picture of the surroundings that we're working in.
I think I'm an over describer. I've been told that before. So I can over describe a character, and I can also over describe what she's wearing and what the weather is outside. So I would say I like both.
Right.
Um, it's a weakness and a strength because, like I said, you can do too much or too little. And yeah, no, I enjoy both. But I would say for Moms Who Whine, it's definitely characters all the way for
Right.
me.
I also, too, I think it just depends on what kind of book you're writing. Because
Yeah.
for thrillers, for us, it's kind of different. But if you're getting a fantasy book, man, that's
Oh,
wholeheartedly a lot of world. If you're doing wizards and witches and things like that, you're heavily focused on
oh,
fleshing
100%.
out the world and the things happening around them to make people be able to visualize what that character is doing. So I think, yeah, I think too, for a lot of people, it heavily depends on the book itself that
Right.
they're working on. This one you kind of touched on a little bit, but I kind of just want to get a clear answer. But I think I already know. Do you prefer planning out your story fully, or kind of discovering things as you write?
So I'm 100% a planner. I have notebooks on notebooks on notebooks of everything before I even write anything. I mean, down to like what color her hair is, what her eye color is, what her traits are, what the city looks like. I mean, I try to map all that out. That way, when I do the chapters, I know what's coming. Like,
Right.
I want a good outline. It doesn't have to necessarily say the same. Like, I change things all the time. Like, if I don't like something by the time I'm at chapter 15, I'll just, write it down, jot it down. But for the most part, I want a good outlook before I sit down just because I want to be clear headed.
Right.
I'm a little ADHD when it comes to that. Like, I get a little crazy. So it's just better for me to have a plan going into it.
Yeah, it's see, I didn't do that at first, and I learned the hard way because I had to go back and hunt through my entire 40,000 words and be like, okay, what was that character's name? Where did I have them
Ugh,
going? Where was his favorite place to get coffee? And
yeah.
now I don't necessarily like religiously plan out the hardcore details, but it's the exact look of that main character, every character, exactly what that character's role is, and then just a few things to kind of jumpstart the progress. So it's like, oh, the diner they're going to eat. Okay, well, what are they getting at the diner? Why are they going? Who are they meeting? And then I just pan all that out after that. So it's definitely, it works for me, but not, I don't suggest it for everybody.
Yeah, no, some people like I mean, it's great that people can just fly off, the tail of their seat. I love that. Like I wish I could do that. However, kind of like what you said, like the houses that my women live in, if I got to, chapter 27 and I was like, "Oh, what does Jules' houses look like?" Like then I would have to go
Yeah.
back and like, try to figure it all out. I
Right.
just like to have like a clear sheet, whether that's on my laptop or my notebook, that just says, "Hey, this is what Jules looks like. This is where she lives. This is what she drives. This is who her daughter is." And then I go into a little tangent about her daughter.
Right.
Like it's easier for me. But
Yeah. Yeah, and it's to each their own. I always love asking people that question because half the time I know the answer because I've talked to you guys a bunch already, but it's just so fun because it's like you get the stark contrast. And I've
mhm,
noticed that between genres, there's a stark contrast because like a lot of fantasy writers that I know, they'll loosely plan it, but they mostly fly because they're like, look, things have got to change. I've got a fluid world, and things are always progressing and changing. And for example, if they're using magic or something, well, magic evolves, so like they got to keep going. And
right.
I was like, huh,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
it's
it's
definitely cool to see how everybody works because I think with thrillers too, it makes it hard if you don't plan because like I said,
right.
that plot twist, if you don't have a good idea of like where you're going or what that 50% mark is, it could really make or break your book.
Yeah, it it really can. That's for sure. I just some people don't realize just how much too, and not just like the book, but your soul when you're writing it. You're like,
Exactly. It will crush
ugh,
you.
that didn't pan out like I meant to do
Right. And
that,
then you have
and
to sit down and think about like all the decisions leading up to that moment and you're like, do they still work? I don't
right,
know.
exactly. So the last question's a really easy one. Um, what has been, and be completely honest, I always tell people just say whatever your experience has been so far. What has been your favorite part of working with us so far, and is there anything that has kind of surprised you along the way so far?
Honestly, I have nothing but good things to say, and that is being 100% whole and honest. CJM has been such a welcoming experience. Coming from somebody that was in the query trenches, it's a breath of fresh air. Like it really is. Like the family that I have made with everybody on the team. I mean, Jean has done such a great job setting up weekly meetings and like all of us getting together and talk. And then even like breaking us up into our genres so
Mhm.
I can with other thriller writers kind of pick their brain, learn from some of the best and just it's just a community. I feel like we've really built like I've only been with you guys for a little bit, but I already feel like I could send you an email and be like, "Hey Matt, like I need help with this." And you'd be like, "Oh, no problem. Like let me schedule you. Like let's get this figured out." Or same thing with Jean. Like if I have a question about something, I know she's going to respond within a day because that woman somehow can do it. I don't know how she does it, but she does do it.
Right.
And same thing with like Jennifer and Jacqueline, the girls that write thriller. Like I've really fallen in love with the team that we've created here at CJM.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we've tried to do, at least more recently, we started doing is these meetings. We're trying to not only we make money, you make money, we all get our end goal, but we want you to be able to succeed outside of us. So say you only
Right.
want to do Moms with Wine with us, and then you're like, I kind of want to curate somewhere else. I kind of want to see who else wants my stuff. You now have, as coming into us as a brand new author, you now have a functioning website and you know the ins and outs. You know how to work your newsletter and do those things. You know how to make the calls for action. You know graphics. You know all these things. So you have those tools now to be able to go out and do whatever the next thing is that's on your mission. So um, we're just trying to equip you guys with the knowledge that we have, so then you can in turn maybe someday help somebody else that's
Right.
trying to write a book, or maybe teach somebody something that you've learned that like, oh hey, you might like being able to use this. So I think, yeah, I'm happy that you like that because we've struggled for a long time. We're like, you know what else can we do, like what else can we do individually, and then she's like, let's do these meetings. And so
Yeah.
now we're just kind of teaching you one thing at a time, and allowing you guys to ask questions so you can learn and understand, and not just, okay, here's this information, see you later.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you touched on newsletter, like I can honestly say I didn't really know the benefits of having a newsletter
Right.
and like what it was about or why even have one? Why sign up for one? And I've signed up for Jacqueline's now, I've signed up for CJM's and Jennifer's and Michael's and a couple of other people on the team, and I'm like, no, this is a good way to support other authors who are trying to make it in the world.
Right.
And it's just like I had no idea that was important until our weekly meeting a couple weeks ago. And now I can't wait to get the newsletters that come out every month or every week. And it's been an awesome experience.
Well, also too, by you subscribing to, the reason we tell you to, subscribe to other people's that's within your genres, because then you can kind of see what other people are doing, what people are doing similar, trying to push the same genre, and then you guys can talk and be like, well, this hasn't been working for me. Okay, well, I tried this, and then you guys can make each other better because you now know what to do, what not to do, and kind of a way to move forward with something that's cohesive and works genre specific, so you can find the right audience for your book.
Right. 100%.
And lastly, where is the best place for people to keep up with you with what's new?
So for me, I am active on a lot of social platforms. I use X a lot. It's kind of where I began my writing community and like reading community. So I'm on there pretty daily. I mean, I hate to say it, if I'm, just sitting at home, it's easy to scroll. I'm also trying to get on Instagram and YouTube, so look out for my videos. They will be coming. I'm just a little bit new, so I gotta work it up. But no, for the most part, I'm on my website. It's just MadisonCowsert.com. I have a TikTok that I use, and then Twitter is probably, or X is probably my biggest one.
And I will link all of those in the description for you guys to go and check out, so it's easy to get to them, and just keep up with wherever you're on the most. Madison, thank you so much for joining me today. We're really excited for Moms Who Whine, and we can't wait for everybody to read it. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye, guys. Thanks.